Welcome back to another episode of Into the Airbnb, where we talk with Airbnb hosts about their short-term rental experience. Our guest for today is Donnie Daniels, an Airbnb superhost who owns and manages 4 listings with his wife in Terlingua, Texas. His listings are located in highly touristic locations, near to Big Bend National Park, Terlingua Ghost Town, and many other interesting locations and activities for tourists to do. 2 years after buying his first investment property, he was able to purchase a second one, paying 90% of the total property cost with the money he made on Airbnb. Join us today to learn more about Donnie's story and experience on Airbnb. This episode is sponsored by Airbnb, short-term rental analytics for high-return investments, comprehensive data for insights, ideas, and inspiration. Go to app.airbnb.com to find precise Airbnb data such as occupancy rate, revenue, average daily rate, and so on. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Hello, my name is Donnie Daniels. Myself and my wife, we own Roadhouse Rentals. We have 4 Airbnbs. They're studio-sized apartments. They can sleep anywhere from 2 to 3 people easily. The larger ones, we can provide a rollaway, and that will put in a 4th person in the larger ones. We've been doing this since 2018. We just added our second duplex in November of 2021. And since that time, our occupancy, our slow periods are between May and August. And our occupancy during that time is right around 52%. So even though it's slow and hot out here in the desert, it's still pretty busy.
So 52%, right?
Correct.
I see.
And then the rest of the year, the other 8 months, is we average anywhere from 78 to 100%.
Wow, that's a lot. And can you tell me a little bit of your story? How did you and your wife started on Airbnb or on short-term rentals?
Well, we wanted to buy some property. So we bought some property here locally in Southwest Texas, the Big Bend area. And I wanted to get her a souvenir shop opened up on the main road. So I wanted some road frontage, property frontage on the road. And we got 21 acres. So I'm looking back at the rest of the 20 acres because I'm only using one. I'm like, I need to do something with that. And we are right near the Big Bend National Park and Big Bend Ranch State Park. So 2 of the largest parks in the state of Texas. So I was like, people need a place to stay. So let's do some Airbnbs. That's what we decided. We said, and it's been uphill ever since. I mean, it's like a quick success.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn from Airbnb? Like when you were like thinking about opening Airbnbs, how did you know about Airbnb back then?
I have used an Airbnb before. I stayed in one and only been one, so it wasn't much. And I researched it a little bit online. And when Linda and I talked about it, and we said, let's try it. We can always, one thing about it here is if it didn't work out, we could always rent it to the locals for housing. So the locals were hoping that they would be housing because it's very far and few between out here. But the tourists out here is a big tourist industry. The state park or the national park last year broke its attendance record by almost 25%. These people have to stay somewhere. Our nearest town is an hour and a half away from the national park. And I am currently 9 miles away from the park.
Okay, so really close. And from the very beginning, your target audience was those people who were coming to see the national park so they could have a place to stay. right?
Correct. So I looked at all the activities. I currently put out 4 automatic messages to the guests when they book. And one's a thank you for booking with Roadhouse Rentals. Don't hesitate to ask me any questions. The second one is a list of activities to do around the area and the outfitters that they can book events, whether it's canoeing, UTV, hiking. There's so much to do out here. And then the third one is the check-in, standard check-in info. And the fourth one, it's a thank you. And one question that I ask them is, please tell me anything that we can do better to make your experience more enjoyable. So I've had 670 reservations in 4 years, and I am almost right 525, I think it is, in reviews out of those. And most of the time, those are reviews. They'll tell me not to mess with anything because it's perfect. Or then you have the few that want to do a suggestion. Most of them are just leave it like it is.
The fact that you're open to guest suggestions, I think that makes you like more of a friendly host, and they also can trust you a lot with that. So are you the only Airbnb rentals there? So you have like 4 listings, right? Are you
Right.
the only 4 listings around there in your town?
When I opened up in 2018, there was 120, and now there's 250 plus.
But those listings weren't like targeting to the people who were visiting the national park, or there was like a necessity for more short-term rentals there?
It's all for the park. The park gets about 410,000 vehicles a year on average. There's really no place for them to stay.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I understand that. So you already have those listings there, like the properties were there already.
Correct. We got Roadhouse Rentals 1, Roadhouse Rentals 2, then we have Roadhouse Rentals XL3, and Roadhouse Rentals XL4.
So these are both duplex, as you told me, right?
There's 2 duplexes with 2 units in each building.
Okay, that makes sense. And did you already have those properties before you started short-term rentals?
I bought the property at the same time I started all the rentals.
Okay, so when you bought it, you were thinking about doing short-term rentals with those?
Probably about a month after. It wasn't long.
Okay.
Because I fell in love with the property first, and then I said I need to share it.
Yeah, that's right. So you weren't planning to use it that much. That's why you decided to do the short-term rentals, right?
Correct.
I see now. And can you tell me a little bit of the financing story of the properties, if that's all right with you?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Well, we jumped in completely in. We moved here 5 years ago. We sold our house in the Houston area, and we cashed out our 501k, and we paid everything cash. Immediately, we were covering our costs. The only thing we had to do was the utilities, insurance, stuff like that. So we were making a profit. And then once the first building made enough to buy the second building, then we proceeded with the second building.
So you paid both of your rentals basically off of doing Airbnb, right?
Correct.
Oh, that's really amazing. So
Well, the first one was with the 401 and when we sold our house. The second one was through Airbnb.
Oh, so can you tell me what was the price of the second property you bought for Airbnb? Like with the Airbnb money, sorry?
It was probably with everything included, probably about 150.
And you managed to cover absolutely everything with your short-term rental money, right?
Let's say 90% of it.
90%.
We had to throw in some of our own money to help with we had to throw in some of ours to help cover the interior decorating and furnishing.
But 90% is a really impressive number. So You were doing short-term rentals for 2 years when you bought the second listing, right? The second property.
Correct. Correct.
And in those 2 years, how much was your revenue per year?
The first year, I want to say, well, the first year was only 2 months. So that was really not even worth talking about. I think it ended up being close to 6,000, 7,000. The second year was in the 60s, and the third year was in the 90s. And then this year, we're already sitting above 93 right now.
Oh,
it's
so
6 months there.
Wow, 93. That's a really good number. Do you think the other rentals out there do the same amount as you, or is just your listing has perceiving this amount?
I think it's pretty well even around the board. There's some that probably do better, they charge more. And then there's some that do better, they probably charge less. So they get more active. But we're all of us out here is like a family. So we all know each other. We all take care of each other. If someone has an emergency at one of their Airbnbs, they'll reach out to me and say, Donnie, you got vacancy. Can I send them your way? I need to let them come over there. Yeah. So we relocate between each other.
Oh, that's really nice. So you're a pretty close community down there, right?
Yes.
That's really nice. And can you tell me a little bit of how much is your average daily rate and how do you plan the pricing for your listings?
Of course, it's the weekends and the holidays and stuff like that are more expensive, or the prime time of the year. I will run anywhere from $99 a night in the regular Roadhouse rentals up to $179 a night in Roadhouse rentals. And then the XLs will be anywhere from $139 to $279.
So the difference between these listings is that some of them are bigger than the other ones, right? That's why the XL. Okay. That's
correct.
Right. And what kind of amenities do you offer in your listing that probably attracts the guest or are really comfortable for the guests you have?
We've got a queen size bed. It's basically like a tiny home. It's got a queen size bed with dresser underneath it. We've got a full size bathroom, the shower. We've got a 2-burner stovetop in the kitchenette with a microwave. As I know, as funny as it sounds, we have running water, electricity. We are on a septic system. Out here, you'll get a lot of people who prefer off-grid, which means they've got compost toilet, solar system, catchment water. So I almost have like the hometown feel out in the middle of nowhere. So I've got a sitting area outside with a fire pit. There's a charcoal grill outside. There's a cabana to sit in to get some shade. I've made a half a mile long walking trail that goes around the property so people can go hunting for rocks and fossils and stuff like that. And that's about it.
So the guests you usually have told me they come because of the national park. Do they usually spend more time going around the national park or do they stay more at your listing?
They definitely go out during the day. We do get night sky because we're the darkest sky in Texas, or darkest sky in the United States. So you can see the Milky Way with your naked eye. So we get a lot of nighttime photographers. The national park has 450 bird species that migrate through the national park. So we get a lot of bird watchers that come and see what birds they can see and do a lot of photography. Then we also have Terlingua, which is a mining ghost town from back in the 20s to 40s. That's a big tourist site. They'll come to Starlight and stuff like that. Want to eat at Starlight Theater so they can participate in the mining company. There's a lot of different draws out here.
Yes. So about the ghost town, I Googled it a little bit because of some of your listings location drop down in there. So is the attraction really near your place?
It's 17 miles away.
And people do usually go visit that town as well, right?
Yes. and then they'll go over to Lajitas. We got Lajitas Golf Resort, which is probably 25 miles away. They have zip lining and they have golfing and horseback riding. There's other horseback riding in Terlingua, in Studi Butte, which is a smaller town. There's many outfitters around to do whatever you could think you want to do out.
Oh, so it's a very like touristic area, right?
Yeah, the population is just over 1,000 locals. And like I said, the national park, they had last year they set the record at 578,000 came in.
578,000 visitors for the national park.
Vehicles. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's really nice. So you have most of your bookings are just for the guests who come to the national park, right? That's your biggest demographic. Do you get another?
That is the biggest draw.
Mm-hmm. Do you get another demographic of people who come for different activities?
We have a lot of different festivals in this area. Number one is, you know what chili is, right?
Yes, that's right.
Well, chili was created here.
Oh.
So they have the International Chili Cook-Off every November. So for a week or 2 weeks, a week they come and prep and set up, and then the week of the tournament, so the cook-off. Oh, that's one other thing. And then there's a bunch, you get a lot of car shows, you get a lot of motorcycle groups. It's a big draw. Highway 170 is the number one scenic drive in Texas. It starts 25 miles away from me, and you can take it about another 30 miles and then turn around and come back. There's been many movies filmed out there. Probably before your time, the movie Fandango back in the 80s. It was filmed out there. Lots of music videos have been done out here. Oh. They got a movie they just did was Deep in the Heart of Texas. It's got some areas from here on it. And then there's another one, Frank and Penelope, that just hit the films in the last month. So they're in the theater.
I see. So it's a very known area then. And can I ask you, for your pricing, what method do you use? Do you do market research? Do you keep a standard pricing?
I try and keep it standard. Then you always got to try and stay competitive so you can get some bookings.
That's right. When you are planning on your pricing, do you do market research, or what strategy or method do you use?
I researched other Airbnb sites that were similar to mine. Mm-hmm. And basically went off and stayed right around them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And can you tell me, what is it the most that you like about hosting?
One good thing about out here is they are tourists, so they're on vacation. They want to get away from the big cities. So they're out here to have a good time, and they're very polite. Rarely have I ran into any rude visitors that were guests with me.
Oh, so you have really good guests then. You haven't encountered any bad guests yet?
Well, maybe 2 or 3, if that. And they were usually out here just to do work. And that's what I'm saying. As long as they're out here on vacation, they usually get along pretty good.
I see now. And are you very close to your listing all the time? Do you live close to your listings?
I'm setting up a house right now at the very back of the property. So I'm 20 acres behind everybody. So I do greet them when I can. I always talk to them a little bit somehow, whether it's text messaging or through Airbnb messaging. Out here, you can have a hard time finding Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's right.
My Wi-Fi in my Airbnb is a fiber Wi-Fi, so it's super fast. So that's not an issue. But until they get logged into it, you have to depend on cell service.
Right.
And it's hard to make a phone call at sometimes. But texting works great and messaging works great.
And now that we're talking about communication with the guest, can you tell me if there was any particular big challenges that you have encountered as an Airbnb host? It can be with the Airbnb platform, with your guests, with pricing, whatever you find the most challenging.
What do I find challenging with my guests? I can honestly say I've probably had maybe 5 to 10 ask me for a discount, but other than that, they book it as is. They don't try and negotiate. So I can't use that as a problem. I think my hardest part would be reviews because, I mean, I'm at 95% 5-star reviews, right? But then you've got those few reviews. Like in the last year, I think I'm sitting at 11 reviews below 5 stars. And like I said, I know you can't please everybody. That's my favorite line. But I mean, if everybody else will look at the other 250 for the last year that are above 5 or at 5 stars, people would look at the whole thing. When 90% of them say that you're in a great location, and all of a sudden 2 of them say that you're in a bad location. Now, like, why is that? I wish I could reach out to them and say, explain to me more, and then we can continue the conversation. But I don't want to be like I'm argumentative.
So how do you deal with those bad reviews? You have very few of them, obviously. It can affect you, right? Your superhost status and all of this. Yeah, that's right. And can you tell me, how do you deal with that?
I strive harder to get more 5 stars, and I communicate. I make sure they understand where I'm at and where I'm located. So hopefully they're not surprised when they get here and they say, I mean, I realize that most people in big cities probably only drive 5 or 6 miles to get where they got to go. So when you get out here and you realize you got to go 10 miles or 9 miles to get to the park, and then it's another 30 miles inside the park, just because it's the largest national park in Texas. So it can take you an hour to drive across. And then they think that you're too far away. And I said, no, I get you to the park.
And most of your bad reviews are about that, like the location, they think it's like too far?
Yeah, location, and then of course price. And because everything out here is expensive to get everything here. We are 3 hours from the nearest Walmart. That's how far we are. And that's 3 hours to the nearest stoplight. That's how remote we are. So it is costly to get things here. So we got to get it back in our cost.
So that would be like one of the main challenges of having like a really remote location listing, right? That everything is really hard to get to. I see now. Lastly, I would like you to tell me if there's any tips that you'd like to share for other Airbnb hosts.
My biggest thing is when I set this is I set it up exactly the way I would want it if I stayed there. Okay, so I did that. And then I did suggestions. I asked for suggestions. And if they were good suggestions, I implemented them. And when we built our extra large unit, we implemented quite a few of the suggestions into it, like more cabinet space, more counter space, stuff like that. So listen to your guest and improve what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very accurate and on point tip. Thank you for that. So that would be it for the day. Thank you all for your time, for sharing us your story and also the tips. It's been really amazing to hear about your story as an Airbnb host.
All righty.
Thanks for listening to Into the Airbnb. We're looking for hosts and other people in the short-term rental industry to interview. If you had what we need and would like to share your experience in this podcast, please send us an email. All the info is at the end of the description.